Sure. In March of 2015, Robert Feldman called 911, said he had found his wife Stacy in the bathtub unresponsive. The fire department came, paramedics came. They tried to resuscitate Stacy Feldman unsuccessfully, and she died there at the house. Denver's coroner did an autopsy and an investigation. She had some blunt force injuries that they could not determine the cause of her death, and so it was listed on her death certificate as undetermined, which is one of the causes that you can choose in Colorado on a death certificate. And so the police were suspicious. They were suspicious about the timeline of events of the day as laid out by Mr. Feldman. He had left earlier that day to take his kids to a function at the family synagogue, and it was later in the day that he called police and reported finding Stacy. So they had those questions, and then eventually they heard from a woman who told them that she had had an affair with Bob Feldman, that he had told her he was divorced, and that she had discovered that she didn't think he was divorced, and she had contacted Stacy, actually first emailed her and then phone calls, in which she told Stacy Feldman that she'd had an affair with her husband, and that those phone calls happened just hours before her death.
Wow. So he has been. He was arrested right after that, right? Like after they made that determination, they made an arrest.
No, they then took the photographs and the records from the autopsy and all the stuff that they had done in the initial death investigation, and they took it to a doctor from another state and had him examine that, and he reached the conclusion that she was strangled or suffocated and that she'd been physically assaulted. She had injuries of a physical assault. The first coroner thought those injuries might be from efforts to resuscitate her or to get her out of the bathtub, but the second doctor, his opinion was that this was a murder. And so Bob Feldman was arrested in early 2000, almost 3 years after his wife's death. And then a few months later, a judge granted $1 million bail, and he was able to put it out and was sent home with a GPS ankle monitor and was basically been on house arrest since that time, July of 2018, so almost 3 years.
Someone goes on a house arrest like that, what are the rules? And he's in a pretty high category, right? Like he's not like if you stole something and you're out on bond.
Right. In Denver, they have this department called pretrial services. They monitor people that are awaiting trial for various criminal cases. Lots of them are DUI cases and things like that. And so they'll have certain restrictions, like they may wear a monitor that would tell if they were drinking alcohol. If they're home awaiting trial for DUI, they're not allowed to drink, for example. Bob Feldman was in this very small category of people, what they call maximum supervision. Currently, there are 17 people in Denver that are in this maximum supervision. And basically, they're supposed to stay home except for very limited trips out. In Bob Feldman's case, he's allowed to go and see his doctor, meet with his lawyer, obviously go to his court dates, and get groceries. And he's limited to doing that, groceries, for example, once a week. And then they can modify those conditions as time goes on. So in Bob Feldman's case, his grandmother died while he was on house arrest, and he initially asked to be able to travel to Canada for her funeral. The judge said, no, you can't do that, but did allow him to go to synagogue every day to pray for his grandmother, and was allowed at one point to go up to 3 hours a day every day of the week. And that went on for a year. That's later on was cut back to one religious service a week. He was given permission to take 3 15-minute walks every day after his doctor wrote a note saying he needed to get some exercise. That was later expanded to 3 1-hour walks a day. So those were sort of his restrictions: doctor, lawyer, court, groceries, religious services, and he was allowed to take walks. I think we're having a technical issue. Let's see if we can get this fixed. Nicole, are you there? Let's see. Are we still live? That's the question. All right, we're trying to get Nicole's video uplink fixed. In the meantime, I'll just talk a little bit more about this story. Essentially, Bob Feldman's been on house arrest now for almost 3 years, and part of that is because of a number of things that have happened in his legal case. One of the things that happened after his wife's death was that he collected about $750,000 in life insurance, and his wife's family took action in court to try to prevent him from using that money to pay for his own defense, for example. That battle went on in the courts for many months, and that delayed the proceedings in this criminal case because with those life insurance proceeds, he could afford a private attorney. Without them, he was going to qualify for a public defender. At one point, his private attorney withdrew from the case because there was a court ruling that said no, he could not spend that money. Then the public defender's office came in and represented him for a while, and then a higher court overturned that earlier ruling, and so he rehired his original attorney. So all of this went on for 2018, well into 2019, before they even got to the point where they actually held an arraignment, which is where you are asked to enter a plea in the court system. And then after that, trial was originally scheduled to begin in April of 2020, so a year ago, and the trial was delayed then, and it was rescheduled for September. One of the witnesses in the case, the doctor actually who did Stacy Feldman's original autopsy, lives out of state now, was leery of traveling because of COVID, and actually got a court order in that other state that says she didn't have to travel. Robert Feldman, of course, we all have the right to confront witnesses in a criminal trial, and so his attorneys were insistent that this person testify in person, not over the internet, over Zoom or something. And so the trial was delayed. It was supposed to start then in March, but because of an uptick in cases, Denver stopped all jury trials the first few months of the year.